Welcome to Tanakh Talk. I am your host, William Hall, broadcasting live out of Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT, the Twisted New Testament, Exposed, with Rabbi Stuart Federow, coming to you from Houston, Texas. Shalom, shalom, Rabbi. How are you? It's such a pleasure to be back in the studio.
Thank God.
With you.
How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. Missed you last week. I know.
I missed being here the last couple of weeks, but
Sure.
I had major surgery on my spine, and it's coming along, so I'm back.
Yes, pun intended. Okay, you have a new back, basically. Hopefully that
Yeah. Hey, William asked me how long my back has been bothering me.
Oh, can I guess?
How long? Yes, guess.
15 years?
Nope.
Less?
Ask me that question.
Oh. How long has your back been messed up?
About a week back.
I can tell the meds have kicked in.
Oh boy, have they! So that's my excuse for this show. Woo.
Hey, that's okay. It'll be a good show regardless. Well, we had I had Ira Michelson sit in for last week.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I had some mechanical failures that I don't usually have to deal with, and I know basically what happened. One of my wires, when I was trying to make an adjustment on the camera, it basically it didn't short circuit. It basically came loose for like a nanosecond. But so you can't mess with the cameras after the broadcast has started because it'll completely shut down and freeze up Wirecast. And so I was thinking, okay, what do I do? I'll just use my integrated webcam. Well, the thing is, when you set up a shot with a different camera, which I was able to do, while the show was going on, you also have to tell it to receive sound from that feed as well. Well, see, I forgot to do that. And so every single time I would go back to this camera, it was completely silent. You couldn't hear me, you couldn't hear Ira. So I basically decided not to publish that one. However, it was a really, really great episode.
Should redo it then with the same questions so you can have the same answers?
Well, we are. We're going to do it on a separate show, though, because, like I said, this TNT is pretty much reserved for you unless you can't make it. And so what we decided to do was it was basically an Easter special, kind of Easter Passover
of
special.
Course.
So, but anyway, so that kind of gets us kicked off this week, which I'm assuming here probably the next few weeks, I'm sure that'll be the hot topic of discussion through and throughout, just because of all of the controversies and the contradictions and
of what?
just from Easter versus Passover,
Right.
And I mean, and for all the viewers out there who are viewing this for the first time, when we use the term Christian, that includes people who claim to be messianic, who claim to be Torah observant, so to speak. They're Christians too. It's just they're just a different denomination of Christianity, and that's really the best way. I didn't used to believe that while I was actually a messianic. I was like, no, it's not. You don't understand. But actually, yes, it is. You believe in the same New Testament figure. Of course, they'll argue that too. Well, no, not really. We believe in Yeshua, not in Jesus. I'm like, you know what? Tomato, tomato. So, but anyway, so Rabbi, it's coming up right now. We're going through the counting of the Omer, and
Yes, it is.
what's the biggest significance that we need to know? Have you heard the parallels with the counting of the Omer in Christianity, and what their meaning for that is?
I have not heard it.
Okay.
But again, let me say what I always say.
Okay.
Every single person is free to interpret any single verse or many verses together from the Bible in any way, shape, or form they wish to interpret them. And
Very
the
true.
only thing another person can say is, my interpretation, or the way I understand it, disagrees with the way you understand it. And if a third person comes along and says he's right and you're wrong, that's just their opinion.
Right.
It's nothing but opinions and
Elbows.
what's the word? Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm gonna give you this, since we are kind of discussing this whole idea.
William.
Yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt. Have you ever heard the saying, one man's theology is another man's belly laugh.
No, I haven't heard that. I've heard the garbage thing though. One man's junk.
Wait a minute. What's the garbage thing?
Well, one man's junk is another man's treasure. So same concept.
Uh, yeah, yeah, but that's usually involved with physical things. The religion tends to be more spiritual things.
Sure.
And one man's belief system, theology, can be another man's belly laugh.
Right. Okay.
Of course, there's the other saying. I'm sorry, I should interrupt you, but just one more thing. There's another saying that every single religion, and that means every single religion, is made up of a belief system. And to understand best everybody else's belief system, just take the first letter of each word.
Okay, I missed that.
Belief system.
Okay.
Take the first letter of each word.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Yep. All right. Okay, so let's do something real fast. Let's talk about. I know this isn't where we're at, but let's talk about Sukot real fast.
Okay.
Because as we were
the
talking,
Feast of Booths, the Festival of Tabernacles.
Okay, now
I love that phrase, tabernacles.
Here's something that I want you to refute. I'm going to play the Christian. No, I won't, because they don't really do the Feast of Booths, but Messianics do. I'm gonna play the Messianic Christian, and I'm gonna say, this is what I was taught, and it from everything I tell you from here on is true for me 2 years ago. Okay, but it's not true now, obviously. But so when I say I was told, yeah, I was definitely told. So just work with me, play with me on this, okay? Okay, so here we go. Okay, so Rabbi, you're supposed to be a rabbi. You're supposed to know all this stuff. Here's the thing.
Yeah, I would never say I know everything.
Okay. So here's the thing. Here's Yeshua, not Jesus, because that's a different person, not the Greek blonde hair,
that's
blue
the Hellenized
head.
version, right?
We believe in. Okay, I got to stop doing that. I'm trying to make it towards it's more serious, not funny, and I'm not trying to be funny. So,
no, I agree. Let's make it funny.
We'll make it fun. How about that? We'll make it compromise.
That's a good one too.
Okay, so we believe that the Yeshua of the New Testament is the Messiah, and we believe that in the Festival of Booths at Sukot, there was an 8-day feast, and the reason why there was 8 days is because on the 8th day he was circumcised. He was born on the first day of Sukkot, the 8th day. Well, he was circumcised on the 8th day, and that's why there's 8 days in the festival. I was told by many people, including rabbis, have said that that is the one holy day that they have no clue why they were told to do that, other than just pure speculation. So, and we know as Messianics, and again, clarification here, I'm not Messianic. We know as Messianics that Jesus was born on the first day of Sukkot. He was born in the fall, not in the winter, not at Christmas like the pagan Christians.
Yeah.
Okay. 8th day circumcision, there's your proof. What do you got to say about that?
Okay. First of all, well, actually, there's a lot of things to say responding to that.
I figured it would be.
First of all, if they really truly believe that Jesus was born on the first day of Sukkot, which is a fall festival, then let them convince every single Christian on planet Earth to celebrate Christmas on what would be the first day of Sukkot instead of December 25th. When they can do that, we have something to talk about. Because the rest of the entire Christian world celebrates the birth of Jesus on the 25th. So if that's wrong, let them convince all their own people first and then come and try to convince us. That's one thing. Second of all, William, this is a trick question.
Okay.
Think about your answer before you give it.
Okay.
How long in number of days is the Feast of Sukot?
Number of days in the feast?
Yeah, how long is Sukot?
Is 8 days, right?
No, it's not.
What is it?
7 days.
Okay.
Take a look at the biblical passage in Leviticus 23, approximately, I think it's like the 15th verse, somewhere in there. I'll have to look it up again.
Okay, Leviticus 23. Let's go there. Leviticus 23. Okay. I'll just do 23.
It's going to make me do it too.
Oh,
I'll find the exact quote.
Okay.
But it's Leviticus 23.
I'll do 11 just because you probably got lucky.
Leviticus.
Yep, there it is. You shall wave the sheaf before the Lord. You got skills.
Okay.
And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, When you come into the land that I give you and reap its harvest, you shall bring the sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest to the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, so that you may accept it on the day of the Sabbath priest. Okay, so moving on for sheaves. And the grain offering. All right, where's the master verse there? Mixed with oil, and you shall eat this. Okay, well, Feast of Weeks. There it is, verse 15. Okay, you shall count 7 full weeks from the day after the Sabbath.
Right.
Okay.
Right, which is another issue, but go ahead.
Okay, and you shall count 50 days after the Sabbath day. Then you shall present a grain offering of new grain to the Lord. You shall.
Wait a minute.
Did I skip something?
We're talking about Sukot, not Shavuot. Shavuot is the Feast of Weeks. The 15th is talking about.
Oh.
Right.
Yeah.
So I
Sorry.
overshot.
My bad.
Okay, let me find it
bad.
again.
My bad. I got you. I thought it was something wasn't triggering in my mind here, David. Let's see. Feast of Booths. There it is. Okay, verse 33. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Okay, let me put this on the screen. That way people can read along with us here.
Right.
Okay, so let's put that there. Phone lines are open, by the way, 855-952-4253. Please do call in with your questions or comments, compliments. That's okay. All right, what verse did I say that was? That scroll on me.
33.
33, okay. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, V'daber Shem el Moshe lemor, speak to the people of Israel, saying, on the 15th day of the 7th month, and for 7 days is the Feast of Booths. How about that? To the Lord. On the first day.
Now keep reading. Keep reading.
Well, see, there's justified right there. On the 8th day, you shall hold a holy convocation.
But now it's a different holiday.
Right. But the whole point of this is that 8th day goes with it, even though it's not part of it. That 8th day is a holy, sanctified.
Judaism considers it a separate holiday in and of itself.
Okay.
So if the 8th day is its own holiday, you can't say that Sukot is 8 days long.
Okay, right. But I think that's really
right.
Not germane to their point. What's germane to their point is that would be why the 8th day celebration? Why is that?
Because we're explicitly commanded to in Leviticus 23. But that's what we just read.
For what purpose?
Now there's a specific purpose for Sukot, which people tend to neglect. The Shalosh Regalim, the 3 pilgrimage festivals, each one is a harvest festival. And you cannot separate the issue of being the harvest seasons from the historical basis of the holiday as well. So the Feast of Sukot is the fall harvest festival. One of the reasons why, what is a sukkah? It's a booth. Mm-hmm. It's a structure that's temporary, that basically for a temporary short period of time protects somebody from the elements.
Right.
From the sun. So in addition to while the Jews were, as a matter of fact, it even says that here. Let's see.
That was verse 35, I think, right? Or 37? What was that? Let me go back here. 35. Okay, here we go. On the 8th day, you shall hold a holy convocation and present the fruit.
It is verse 42, 43. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths. When I brought them out of the land of Egypt, I am the eternal thy God, your God. So the point is that the biblical verse says that it's a reminder of how we were in temporary housing, so to speak, while we were in the 40 years in wandering in the wilderness.
That was for the 7 days. Now the 8th day.
No, wait. Yes, but wait a minute. The point, though, is that there's also other reasons to dwell in booths at this period of time in the what's it called? In the agricultural year.
Okay.
And that is most people way back when lived in walled cities. They would have to go out of the protection of the walled city into the fields in order to reap what they'd sown. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But they're not going to go from the city to the field to the city to the field to the city to the field every single day. So they had these booths, these temporary huts that they would live in for the week of the harvest during Sukot.
Okay.
Okay. And I thought that there was a specific verse that tied, like Passover is explicitly tied, I think, to the barley festival.
Okay.
The barley harvest.
Okay, I'm still playing the role of the messianic here. Okay, so it's pretty clear to me that you just don't see this. Okay, so let's move on to something different here.
No. But what you just said is the point.
Okay, tell me what I said.
If the Jewish community had been celebrating the festival of Sukkot for 1,000 years before Jesus was even born, then they are giving an additional reason on top of the biblical reasons that is a purely Christian concept, namely to celebrate anything to do with their dying, saving, pagan man god, Jesus.
But don't you see, Rabbi, that Jesus was born in a sukkah, and the whole reason why we're supposed to be in the sukkah is that we're
he was born in a barn.
He was born under a covering.
Wait a minute. It depends on which of the Gospels you read. Because remember, there's only two Gospels that talk about a birth story around Jesus.
But the
Matthew and Luke.
But the purpose of the dwelling in the booths was because we were supposed to be drawing close to the baby Jesus and spending that time recognizing his.
Jesus was not born in a booth.
Jesus was born in a temporary dwelling. There was no room at the inn, so therefore they had to go to.
According to the Gospel of Luke, but not according to the Gospel of Matthew. In the Gospel of Matthew, it explicitly says that they were at home because Mary was from Bethlehem. She had a home in Bethlehem.
I don't believe you. Show me. Where's it at?
Okay.
You got to admit I'm playing this out pretty well, don't I?
Yes, I know, but it's going to take me, if I keep using that.
Okay.
Let me go grab
I'll quit being a
Bible
hardhead.
with all my notes and everything else.
Okay.
It's basically falling apart. Whoa!
I'll quit being a hardhead. I'll just.
Yes, well, no, you can be a hardhead. That's fine.
Okay.
But I gotta.
All right. So
now
I'm gonna look this up too while we're at it. By the way, you've got a happy birthday. I'm sorry, not happy. You have a welcome back shout out from Carol Van Gotham on
thank
YouTube.
you.
And also from Gary Holmes is glad that you're back.
Thank you. Very nice of you. Thank you. And believe me, I'm glad to be back. Okay, so Matthew.
Okay, so let me do this. I'm going to turn my other microphone so I can hear me when I turn my head. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Oh, that actually works out pretty good. Yo yo yo. Check it out. Check it out. Okay.
You're playing with yo-yos?
I've been accused of being a yo-yo. So
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, so what's the...
Here we go. Okay. So, let's see.
Too many options here. That was really, really loud. I need to turn my phone down. Like now. Down. Thank you. Okay. Again, the phone lines are open, 855-952-4253.
Okay.
Just call in with questions. And I'm watching the YouTube channel for the chat. You guys, if you're watching this live, you can actually watch the chat box.
Here it is. I got it.
So, and you can put your comments or questions in the chat box of the YouTube channel if you like. Okay, what did you pull up, Rabbi?
Matthew. It's Matthew chapter 2, verse 10, let's say.
Okay.
When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and goes on from there.
But that's not when he was born.
Oh, excuse me. It is when it's born. That's what this whole chapter talks about.
But this is
It's
talking about when the wise men or whatever came to see him. They were at home.
which was right after his birth.
Well,
Now, it
actually, the
says, look at
argument.
verse 18. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way.
Wait, we're at verse 18. No, what'd you say?
Matthew chapter 1, verse
Oh,
18.
118. Okay, hold on.
Right. Now, the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way, and it goes on from there.
Okay.
Okay. They're still talking about the birth of Jesus. The whole point was to be there at the birth of Jesus. That's why you had the Star of Bethlehem, according to Matthew, because the Star of Bethlehem is never mentioned in the Gospel of Luke.
Okay.
Okay. There are a number of differences between Matthew and Luke on this issue, on the birth story. Okay. Matthew, Jesus is born in a time of fear. Luke, he's born in a time of calm. Think of
Right.
it talks about the shepherds in the fields. That's very calm.
Okay.
But Matthew, there's danger. There's Herod trying to kill all the babies. There's all these things. There's fleeing. They come back. They're warned about Herod. That's why they go up to Nazareth and all that stuff. So you got totally different descriptions between Matthew and Luke.
Okay. Now,
but the Matthew is just as much a story at the birth of Jesus as the Luke story.
except one problem: the timing that it's reading off. I've got it on the screen still now. Chapter 2. The timing it's given you is not sequential in days; it's sequential in an overall time frame. It says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod."
Herod the king.
Right. It doesn't necessarily pinpoint a time. Some people believe this is whatever he was already like 18 months old, 2 years old before this actually happened.
There's no evidence of saying that. You've got two stories. Each one is talking about the birth story, not the 2-year-old story of Jesus. Also, wait a minute. Let's see. There was something else, and I can't remember exactly what it is. Well, anyway, the point is that there's no reason to believe that he's 2 years or around 2 years old, because the whole point of this story is that they should arrive, that the wise men should arrive at the birth. That's the whole point of this. And there's a lot of other problems between the two gospels, but the point of each gospel is they're telling the story of the birth, not when he's 2 years old or later.
Okay,
but the point is that remember something. In the Gospel of Luke, if the section of Matthew is supposed to be like 2 years later, the Gospel of Luke, where were they 2 years later? They were in Nazareth. They weren't in Bethlehem.
Right.
In Luke, they start in the Galilee, come down to Nazareth, then go back to Galilee.
But
from Galilee, Bethlehem, Galilee.
Well, keep it in mind.
And they stay there. They don't come back down.
But even if this whole story took place over 2 weeks, it still doesn't mean the baby was born in the home. Right here it says on verse 8, and he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child," not for the parents, but for the child, which was already born. Otherwise, it would have said, "Search for the parents."
The point is, they're in a home. 2 weeks, they're still going to be in the barn.
You think? Oh no, I'm not saying it was 2 weeks. I'm not saying it was 2 weeks. I'm saying let's say it could have been 2 weeks. It doesn't mean that they were at a barn or in a home. It could have been either way.
But the reason why Bethlehem being the home, look, in the Gospel of Matthew, okay, they start out in Bethlehem, they go to Egypt, then they come up to Nazareth.
Okay.
The reason why the Matthew story, the Matthean as the fancy term is, the Matthew story doesn't talk about a manger or anything else is because they were from Bethlehem. This is their home. They're in their home, and when they get
we're getting somewhere. Context. Right. This is
when
good.
They get scared, that's when they go to Egypt, and when they come out of Egypt, they don't go back to Bethlehem, Mary's home, at least Mary's home, if not both Joseph as well, but they go up to Nazareth instead.
Okay. Okay,
And,
let's go on to another thing in the same chapter. Since we're here, let's just cover all these because there's
well, there's a lot to
prophecies.
cover because
Yes.
the here. Let me show you this. This was always funny to me. Let's see. Let me find it. Here we go. William, you got it. You have a better background in this than I do. You're gonna have to explain this to me.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay, Jesus was born in, this is Matthew chapter 2. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king. Okay, by the way, Herod, according to every historian, died in 4 BCE.
There was 2 Herods though, so it could have been.
Well,
It could have been.
okay, fine.
So.
By the way, did you know that Shakespeare did not write his plays, the plays attributed to him? It was actually written by a different author of the same name.
Interesting. Hence, we have the.
It's a joke.
Uh-huh.
All right. But at any rate, look, it
see.
says,
Okay.
Behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east.
Now that's funny.
They're in the east, and they saw the star in the east. How would a star east of them make them go west? You see that?
Yes. And I have another question for you. I mean, and this is one you're probably going to present
Yes.
if I hadn't cut you off.
No.
How far are the stars in the heavens? How far up would you say that would be? Like,
Millions of light years.
thank you. Okay, so how probable would it be for anybody, even a witch who had supernatural powers, to be able to follow a star and project where that star was residing over a pinpoint location from millions?
The answer is the star would have to be approximately, let's say, 60 feet up from Earth.
Yeah. That's just not going to happen.
And you'd have 2 points. Okay, you would have Bethlehem and wherever it was that they saw, because they said that they saw the star in the east, so it'd have to be somewhere like this. Okay, because if this, the star goes up like this, now it's east of them. The only way it could be, it would have to be very low to the ground.
Right.
Follow what I'm saying?
Yep, I do.
Okay, because they're in the east. They saw the star in the east. They say the same thing when they're in Bethlehem to Herod. We saw the star in the east, so it would have to be so low to the ground to make them go west.
And of course, gravity would never be a feature there. Okay.
Or the heat of that star, or anything
yes,
else.
exactly. Okay,
But
well,
let's don't let facts and bother you with the truth.
all right, very true.
Yes, exactly.
Completely. Okay, caller, welcome to Tanakh Talk. Thanks for calling. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Yes, this is William. I'm in Port Baka right now.
Hi, William. Welcome to the show. Do you have a question for
Hi,
Rabbi?
William.
Hello. Yes, I have a question. This is kind of how I have an echo of myself. It's kind of like a little weird.
Oh, you know what? You have to turn whatever you're watching this on, a computer or whatever, you have to turn that all the way down while we talk. That's where you're getting your feedback.
Oh, okay. Let me do that.
Okay, sure. Take your time. Okay, so William, where'd you say you were calling from?
I'm actually from Port Lavaca, Texas.
Oh, okay, cool.
Fellow Texan. I'm in Houston.
Yeah, we're like
Okay.
We're about an hour and a half northwest of Austin.
Awesome. Yeah, my question is that, like, I know that the rabbi really doesn't confront apologetics or anything like that.
I don't what?
But he seems to be pretty good at it. And this is one that comes up to me oftenly. Is like Isaiah said, the Redeemer would come to Jacob. Now I'm paraphrasing.
Okay.
The Redeemer would come to Jacob, to those who turn from iniquity. And then Paul, he says the Redeemer would come from Jacob to remove iniquity.
Right.
Right. In other words,
Now-
they mistranslate the Tanakh to favor their theology.
Right, but
They-
whenever
yeah,
I'm confronting a lot of Christian evangelicals that come to me with this, they just simply say that, like, for instance, Dr. Michael Brown and others say that Paul is not creating a new scripture, but that he is just conflating or compounding other scriptures together to make his point.
And that's not what he does, and it's clear in the Christian text. In the Christian text, he's making it clear that this is how he translates the verse.
Regarding Michael Brown and all the others, that's the only way that they can pull this off to make it sound believable, is to try to make it look like they're compounding. They're trying to make it work in unity together, and it's just nonsense. It's simply a claim, and it does not match up text for text.
Let us be very clear about something. The Christians are perverting the word of God for their own ends. If the biblical text in the Tanakh says whatever it says, and they come along and read it with different translation, they are changing the word of God.
Mm-hmm. William, that's a really great
that
point you're pulling out. It really is.
I mean, that's how I initially see it. I believe that they're just simply just changing the word of God.
And they are. And whenever they try to pull this stunt that, oh, well, he's giving additional meaning, I forgot exactly how you worded it,
yeah.
You have to say to them, that's not what the New Testament text says. The New Testament text has Paul misquoting, mistranslating the clear, precise, definite, fixed meaning of the biblical text for their own ends. It doesn't say he's going to now I forgot exactly how you worded it. I wish I had the verse in front of me, but it doesn't say what he's.
I just basically just paraphrased it, but
no, you did good. You did good.
No. Your paraphrase was very good. That's exactly what they're doing there.
Right.
But for them to say, oh well, he's expounding on it, or that's not what the text says. The text has Paul quoting from the Hebrew Scriptures.
Yeah, I mean, so many time and time again.
It's a perversion of it, okay? But they can't turn around and say that he's, I forgot what you said, clarifying or whatever. That's not what the Christian text says. The Christian text says this is how Paul understands that verse in the Hebrew Scriptures, which is clearly incorrect.
It's like in Matthew, as we're talking on chapter 1, where it literally says, all this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, and then they make this phrase, they say this phrase, but it's actually it's not what it says at all. It's like in this one, Matthew, chapter 1:22, behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and of course we all know that's not what it says.
But see, people misunderstand that too. They'll say, because of the mistranslation of young woman into virgin, that's why Christianity believes in the Trinity. And that's not correct. It's because they believe in the Trinity that they mistranslate that verse in Isaiah. It's the theology precedes the translation, not the other way around.
Right.
It's not that the translation causes the theology.
William, go ahead.
Okay, is it possible I know that y'all have said that you specifically don't deal with apologetics.
Well, I would say that's exactly what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
I would say that's correct. I would say that you're actually fantastic at it. But I'm terrible with remembering
so am
scripture verse and things like that.
See, I guarantee you, somebody else come along, Rabbi Skobach, Rabbi Singer, Ira Michelson, they would say, oh, you're talking about verse blah, 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 blah in the New Testament. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I don't have the chapter and verse, memorized for it. I was never good with numbers. I was never good with math. And I honestly believe that has a lot to do with it, the ability to quote chapter and verse, because those are numbers.
William, did that cover
Would
all your
you
questions for
have-
you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, if y'all want to end the conversation, that's fine. But
No, go
I would
ahead.
have another question.
Oh, go ahead. If you got more questions, bring them on.
Okay, yeah. Like when dealing with situations like this, when they just say that they're conflating or compounding other scriptures to make their point, with someone like me that is in a disadvantage because I'm not in apologetics, how do I defend myself, like when confronted with this?
Is that
Because I believe
typically?
that this is a clear. Because I believe that this is a clear, just simply changing of the Word of God.
Right.
And
I agree with you.
This is the reason. This is the reason. These points are the reasons why I left the New Testament.
And my
but
response
whenever
is to my. Sorry, go ahead.
And so whenever I'm dealing with other apologetics, and I just simply tell them the reasons why I left the New Testament. It's either they don't even research actually the scriptures that I'm bringing up, or they'll come back with some sort of explanation to just wash away what took place and say.
Exactly.
But you have
And
to look at the bigger picture. The gospel is,
And the point, there are two things that I would say to you. Okay, and first and foremost, you are going to get into these conversations with these people. You cannot walk in with a knife to a gunfight. That means that you have got to study.
That's a great
Okay.
point. My question to you, real quickly, William, are you the one who initiates these conversations, or is it just people come and approach you on it?
I will tell you, since I made my decision to start studying the Bible, there are a lot of other dear friends of mine and family that are highly evangelical that pursue me. They want to come in and
You
present
bet
the
they
gospel.
do. They want to
this
bring
is-
you back to their Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And
right,
and
absolutely. And
William,
that's
let me
where
tell you something. Okay, I believe my attitude is I don't care who wrote it. If it teaches somebody even one thing about how to respond to Christian missionaries, about comparative religion between Judaism and Christianity, then I put it on my bibliography. If you go to my website, whatjewsbelieve.org, whatjewsbelieve.org, on the very far right, on the very bottom, it'll have a bibliography. And William, if you are going to get into these conversations with these people, you've got to study this. The Talmud teaches us, Damala Hashiv, know how to answer, know how to respond. And the only way, look, just because you have the knowledge of responding doesn't mean that in every single situation you're going to respond every single time the same way. You have to decide which battles are worth fighting. But if you don't study the issues, if you don't study the Hebrew Scriptures and how they compare and contrast with the Christian's New Testament, if you don't study the Christian's New Testament like you obviously have been, or you wouldn't know about this one in Paul, okay, if you come into a gunfight with a knife, you've got to study. So my very, very strong suggestion is the initial bibliography, which is like 30 some odd books, is whatjewsbelieve.org. Okay? If you're kind enough, interested enough, although that's not the purpose of our Tanakh talk, but I will tell you, to go buy my book, the bibliography in the back of my book is like 40 some odd books. It's got at least 2 or 3 or 4 more books in that list. And every single one will teach you something about this comparative religion between Judaism and Christianity and how to respond to Christian missionaries, because that's what it's for.
And just to push another resource for you, Rabbi Tovia Singer's got a 2-volume book set that is highly illustrated.
Absolutely.
The only problem is it's rather large, so you can't keep it in your shirt pocket. But it's really one of the best study guides out there, because he gives you, in the very back of the book, it's got literally verse references in order so you could find them quickly. There you go. And in the front, it's covered by topic. So if you don't have that, get Rabbi Federow's book, because it's an easy read. It's completely compact and it's loaded with tons of information.
But it's also different. Tovya's works may include what I talk about, but he also talks about the Christian misuse of the Hebrew scriptures to prove Christian claims.
Right.
My book is about the basic theology of every denomination of Christianity. Falls down to about 4 or 5 different beliefs. Each belief is required to be able to believe in their Jesus as Messiah, Son of God, Savior. And what I do is I take those basic beliefs of every denomination of Christianity, okay, and show that they are unbiblical at their base. So, but for William's purposes, the bibliography, which you can also find without having to buy the book at whatjewsbelieve.org, is a really good beginning of study. And by the way, if you really want to learn these verses, not only do you get Tovia Singer's 2-volume work, okay, Let's Get Biblical, but you also get the 24 CDs,
right?
Okay, and you listen, and you read, and you listen and you read, and while you're looking at the verses and having the explanation in the book, you're also hearing the explanation. And if you really study and learn them, these people aren't going to be able to talk to you, because they don't even know these problems exist, much less to be able to defend them.
I want to push one more resource. Rabbi, you have an application, a phone app.
Yes,
that's got a quick answer guide. What is that app?
Okay, well, the name of the app is Jewish Mission Control. Okay, and even before I was in Houston, I was calling it Mission Control. But it's Jewish Mission, like missionary, Jewish Mission Control. It's for the iPhone and for the Android platforms. So if you go to iTunes, I think it's called iTunes. I'm not a Apple person, but or you go to the Android play.google.com, you can download. It's a free download for the app, and they're simple and they're not fancy bells and whistles and lights. It's just for the information, and it also includes the bibliography, and it's encapsulated, so everything is on your cell phone for reference, right at your hand.
Perfect. One thing I'd recommend for you too, William, as you get moving along, is to, anytime somebody wants to talk to you about their scriptures, your scriptures, whatever, just get them to agree to some ground rules, and those ground rules are very simple. If we want to talk cordially, we'll talk about, but everything's got to be based on the Hebrew scriptures. Nothing presented out of you can use the New Testament, but the basis has to be the Hebrew scriptures.
Can I speak to that, William?
Absolutely.
Okay, it just very quickly, because I don't want to interrupt William, but the point is that they cannot prove anything to us based on their New Testament, because we do not hold the New Testament as authoritative. However, because they hold the New Testament as authoritative, they have to defend it. Right.
Well said. William, really appreciate your time, man. If you need some links, you can shoot me an email.
And you can always reach me through my website, whatjewsbelieve.org, whatjewsbelieve@hotmail.com.
Hey, y'all, I appreciate it very much.
Hey, you're very welcome. Take care, man.
Any way we can help.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Okay, shalom.
Or as I'm always saying, hey, you can always, communicate with me, and I'll help confuse you even more.
Right. Okay. So when that call came in, there was one place I was going to go with you here.
Where? Well, I forgot already.
That's okay. The 2 places. We can go a few minutes over if we need to.
That's fine.
There's in chapter 1 of Matthew, it says, "Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel." That says, as it spoke about the prophets. And then in chapter 2, in verse 6, it says, "They told him in Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, and you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah." Anyway, it goes on. So what I want to do is just real quickly cover those two, and I'm going to let you take this one off and run with it. And just tell us everything you have on this first thing, on the virgin thing, with the arguments presented that, a young woman, what do you think, she's a harlot? No, of course she's a virgin. Using that, I'll hit it from every angle.
Well, just real quickly then, people take one verse out of its context and ignore the context in which the verse was written, and then use the one verse taken out of its context to support their unbiblical claims. So if you've got to take a look at the entire context of Isaiah chapter 7, because that's where it's quoting from, with the whole virgin birth bit. And if you take a look there, you've got a king. His name is Ahaz. Okay. He is terrified of these two enemy kings because, if you lost the war in those days, they weren't very nice to you as the king. As a matter of fact, they would basically torture you to death. Okay, humiliate you and then torture you to death. So Ahaz is scared to death of these two enemy kings, which are marching closer and closer to Jerusalem. So God says to Isaiah, hey, go to this king, do a miracle for him so he knows this is for real, so he'll stop worrying. So Isaiah goes to Ahaz, the king, and says, basically, I'm coming from God. He's on your side. Keep those words in mind. He's on your side, and he'll do a miracle for you so you'll know that this is true. Ahaz is scared enough as it is. He doesn't want to tempt or test God, and he refuses to name a sign. Isaiah is frustrated at this, and he says, look, you won't ask for a sign? Fine. God will give you a sign. Here's the sign. That woman, is pregnant, present tense to Isaiah's time period. She's going to give birth to a son, and before that son is old enough to know the difference between good and evil, the two enemy kings that you're afraid of are going to be dead and buried. Okay, first of all, the text is not in the future tense, it's in the past tense, or I guess you'd call it the present tense. It's a state of verb, meaning it's a verb that's not an action, but it is a state you are in. She is already pregnant. So whatever the term for the woman is Alma, and whoever the Alma is, or however you want to understand the word Alma, the point is that the text is Hara, she is already pregnant. The point of that child is that the child is going to be around often enough, long enough, for Ahaz to be able to every so often see the kid. Notice that the text in Isaiah calls that kid a sign. A sign is not a miracle. A miracle is a violation of the God-given laws of nature. A kid born, there's no assumption that the kid is born from a virgin. There's no assumption that the kid's birth is some sort of miracle. The text is, the sign, what's a sign? Mm-hmm. What's a stop sign? A stop sign is something, hard that you can, it's physical.
It's not hidden. Touchable. It's not hidden for sure. It's very visible to everyone.
Secret.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the sign, what is a sign? A sign is something that points to something else. Stop sign points to a point on the street and says, here's where you're supposed to stop to a full stop. And then once you've looked all directions, then pull through the intersection. That's not a miracle. It's a sign. What makes the kid a sign? The kid is not supposed to be a miracle or born miraculously from a virgin. Okay, so disregarding Alma and its meaning, we'll get back to it. The kid is supposed to be a constant reminder to Ahaz that God is on Ahaz's side.
Mm-hmm.
So every time he sees the kid becomes a reminder to Ahaz, God is with me. When the kid is called by name, Immanuel, that translates as God is with us. Now, here's another point you got to remember. Going from English to Hebrew, Hebrew doesn't need the word is.
Right.
So, for example, or the conjugation of the word is, to be, to exist. I am, you are, he is, she was. Okay? Was, is are added words in English. In Hebrew, you don't need that. If I say ani po, the first word ani is I. The word po means here.
Right.
I don't say in English, I don't translate that as I hear.
Right.
I translate it as I am here. So Immanuel, Immanu with us, El is God, okay? Immanuel is with us is God, or God is with us. It's not saying the person with that name is God with us. It's saying that the person with that name is to remind me that God is on my side. God is with us. Not the enemy kings. God is with us.
Does this verse say that his name shall be called Emmanuel? Meaning, and if so, then why in the New Testament did they not call Jesus Emmanuel?
Because the story of the virgin birth, quote unquote, that is derived from Isaiah was taking place well after Jesus was dead and buried. It's one of the stories, many stories they made up. Why did they make it up? Because in the ancient world, your God, part human, part divine, okay, had to have a fabulous birth story. So think of all the birth stories of the gods and goddesses of Greco-Roman world. Okay, Hercules, whose mother was human. Alcmene, Alcmene, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm not a Latin person, okay, or Greek person. At any rate, the point is that his mother was a human woman, and his father was Zeus. Imagine that. Mm-hmm. A god for a father and a human for a mother. Sound familiar? So Dionysus, who was called the savior god. Semele, the human woman, was his mother, and Zeus again was his father. So the whole idea is that in the Greco-Roman world, many gods had a human mother and a god for a father. Hercules, Zeus's wife, if you read the mythologies, got angry at Zeus, and I think was about to kill or actually killed the human mother, Alcmene. So Zeus takes Hercules and basically puts him in his own body, his thigh, and that's how the fetus or whatever gets nourished and is able to grow up and be born. It's a miracle story. And every god and goddess in the ancient world had some form of miracle story. So if Jesus and Christianity is going to compete with the other pagan religions, then they have to have a miracle story for their Jesus.
Let's talk about for a minute the Nazarite. They say, of course, that's the one thing it says. I think it's in Matthew. It says that he shall be a Nazarite, but there is no prophecy that says that.
And again, read the text, because they'll give you all sorts of different.
Right.
Well, it was a reference to Nazareth, to a branch, and the Messiah is the branch of Jesse. All these nonsense. That's not what the text says.
Right.
The New Testament text is not authoritative to me, but since it's authoritative to the Christians, they have to defend it, just like I have to defend the Tanakh if somebody attacks it. So if you take a look at the story, okay, let's see, which is Matthew 2, beginning with verse 21, I believe it is. And he rose and took the child and his mother and went to the land of Israel. But when he heard that Archelaus reigned over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. Remember, Matthew is a time of fear. And being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee. And he went and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that what was spoken by the prophet might be fulfilled. He shall be called a Nazarene. Okay, it's explicitly saying.
What verse was that part you just read?
It's Matthew chapter 3, verse 23.
Oh, I see it. Very good. Okay.
So the point is that Matthew is making it explicitly clear that the quote, he shall be called a Nazarene, end of quote, is a quotation from a Hebrew Scriptures prophet. And they can play around all they want to with Nazareth and Nazarene and Nazir,
but it's not even spelled.
It's
not spelled the same.
It's nonsense.
It's not even spelled the same though. I mean, you have the Zion versus the Tzadi, right?
But even barring that, the point is that their New Testament text explicitly makes it clear that quote, he shall be called a Nazarene, end of quote, is a verse found spoken by a prophet. Doesn't appear anywhere in the Hebrew Scriptures.
Right. And Matthew is
they're making up a verse, and then they're making up a story about Jesus to fulfill that verse.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, very important. Now, if you want to talk about Nazareth and Nazareth and all the other, we can, but the truth of the matter is, it's not the point.
Right.
Point is that that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled. He shall be called a Nazarene. And in every single solitary Christian New Testament I have ever read, no matter what translation, no matter who translated it, there are quote marks around he shall be called a Nazarene. Therefore, the translators of those New Testaments all understand that to be a verse found in a Tanakh, in a prophet's, from a prophet.
Right.
Okay,
right.
In the section of prophets in the Tanakh.
Got it. Okay, caller. Oh, I'm sorry, Rabbi.
Well, I'm sorry. All I was going to say is they can argue all they want to about,
right.
Nazareth, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
Show me the verse in which prophet, and then we can start talking, and it isn't there.
Right.
They make up a verse, and then make up a story about Jesus to fulfill that non-existent verse.
Right. Well, caller, welcome to Tanakh Talk. Please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
My name is Avi. I'm calling from Florida.
Hi, Avi. How are you, sir?
Hi, Avi.
I'm good. Hey.
What's the question for the Rabbi?
Okay, so in John 14, Thomas asked Jesus, where are you going? And of course, in a very mystic response, Jesus says that only through me can you get to the Father.
Oh, yeah, right.
And I wonder, what is Judaism's response to something like that? Because it seems like Jesus is claiming some sort of authority.
That's a great question.
Like
do you want to stay on the phone, or do you want to just disconnect and you can watch the answer?
No, stay on the phone.
Okay, yeah, just you can go back and watch it later.
Right,
by the way, that will be our last phone call, so just hang out with us, Avi.
No fun.
5 o'clock's coming awfully early for me. Okay,
so
John 14. I'm looking for the verse now.
John is the last gospel to be written.
I am the way, the truth, the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Verse 6b.
In 14.
14:6.
Okay. And here is where, William, I wish I had the sharp memory of others, in the counter-Christian missionary field. But the term, the statement, the statement, I am the truth. Where'd it go? I am the truth.
The way, the truth, right.
I am the truth, the way, and the life. Okay, Did you know that there is a pagan god in the Greco-Roman world where this was said verbatim about that pagan god as well?
I had no clue.
And you're going to say, well, which one? And I can't remember.
That's
I couldn't
okay.
tell you. But that explicit phrase is taken by Christianity. Remember something. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not know Jesus. Never met him, never saw him, never talked to him, nothing. And I can't remember, I think it's Luke, but one of the four Gospels explicitly says, these stories were told to me by a trustworthy person. Well, that means he didn't witness it. John never met Jesus. John, by every Christian scholar, well, it says that the Gospel of John is the last of the four Gospels to have been written. Most people put it around the year 95, 95. Okay, 25 years after the fall of the Second Temple. So what they're doing here is that they are taking a phrase known in that day, but about a different God, and they're applying it to Jesus, and they're writing it into his mouth by telling the story in John 14.
I'm going to put something up on the screen for people to see. I found something under Horus, the god Horus, and all the similarities.
Or there's a lot of parallels between Horus.
Yeah, was that
there's
the
a
one
lot of
or
parallels between Dionysus, Attis, Ra. I'm drawing a blank. Many others.
Okay.
You know, the Attis was a Phrygian god, so that's like Mediterranean and then like northeast of Israel, I believe. Northeast? At any rate, Phrygia. And Attis is a very interesting god. It's symbolized by a bull. And they would have a deep pit. They would put a grating over the pit. They would take a live bull and put it on the grating. And a person being baptized into the faith of Attis, the mystery religion of Attis, would be underneath the grating. And they would start stabbing the bull so that the blood would come out of the bull and basically wash the proselyte, the convert to Attis religion, underneath the grating.
Mm-hmm.
And what did they say of him? He is washed in the blood of the bull.
Interesting. Wow.
And he would come out of the pit as if he was born again.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that Attis, Dionysus, Ra, Horus. There's a whole string of Mediterranean gods, semigod, demigod, whatever you call them, whose stories predate Jesus by hundreds of years, and lo and behold, they wind up being used to describe Jesus's life as well.
Unbelievable.
But I don't want to lose the second point of this.
Okay.
You know, I am the way, the truth, and life is one thing, but it also says no one comes to the Father but by me.
Right.
Do you know of any Jewish prophet ever who said something like that, or even anything remotely close?
That's crazy.
Did Moses say to the people of Israel, you have to believe in me to believe in God. You have to go through me to get to God?
Furthermore, does it say anywhere in the Hebrew Scriptures that you have to believe in any person, period? It's all about obedience. Right.
They would talk about God.
Mm-hmm.
You know, prophet was, except for one, no prophet said, oh yeah, I want to be a prophet. Send me to do your will, O God. Every other prophet shunned the idea. No, don't ask me. I don't want to be a prophet. Go get somebody else. And God says, sorry, you're it.
Right.
Tag, you're it.
Avi, whenever you are confronted with this, what do you typically come back with on this?
Well, like, what I would try to argue is that in Ezekiel 18, it basically explains that, we're responsible for our own sin,
right,
and that we're the only ones that can deal with it. And, of course, the Christian response is, well,
right,
the only way to the Father is Jesus, and they pull other stuff like Isaiah 53, Isaiah 7. Mm-hmm. But I try to explain,
right,
you're
stuff.
reading a polluted version of the original verse. But, of course,
Avi,
they don't want to hear that.
Of course they don't. May I remind you of something, Avi? and that is, as a person who does not hold the New Testament to be any kind of authority, who cares what Jesus said? It doesn't matter if he actually said this. If I say to you, I am the way, the truth, and the life, nobody comes to God but through me, you're going to laugh in my face. Because because you don't begin with the concept that I, Stuart Federow, have any authority. Well, neither does the New Testament. I think I mentioned this the last time, 100 years ago, I was on with you on Tanakh Talk, William?
Right.
I miss this a lot. I miss talking to you a lot. But anyway, the point is that I had a woman come to my services, and in the middle of our service, come up towards the pulpit and turned around to start preaching Jesus at us. Okay? And as two members of my congregation are kindly, gently escorting her out of the sanctuary, she says, but Jesus said, blah, blah, blah. And very loudly to make sure she heard it, I says, who cares what your Jesus said? And the look of surprise on her face, because she'd never heard anyone say that to her, was priceless, frankly. My point is that they can quote Jesus all they want to. I'm Jewish. Who cares what Jesus said? Who cares what they say he said? He is not an authority to me.
Right.
He has no. My saying, my phrase is, Jesus is to Judaism what Buddha is to Christianity. Totally, completely, utterly irrelevant.
Right. Very good. Well, Avi, thank you so much for your call, man. Feel free to call in. Feel free to call in each week if you need to, man. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Shalom.
All right. Shalom.
You bet. Okay. Hey,
Shalom.
Rabbi, we're overdue, but we've got to address one more thing.
Okay.
Emuna on YouTube. Let me turn this to the mic up. Okay, she says, so is he saying that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John were not disciples? He just said they never knew Jesus. And yeah,
that's exactly what I'm saying.
Perfect. Okay, go with that.
Okay.
This is a follow-up statement of the same person.
Look,
hang on one second.
I'm
sorry.
go ahead.
Emuna, sorry, no one is moderating the chat. I'm looking for volunteers out there. There's a few people who are already assisting with Tanakh Talk. If they do happen to tune in to Tanakh Talk on these certain things, I will be certain to sign them in as moderators. So we'll go ahead and address that, but this will be our last question and last topic.
Again, you're no fun whatsoever.
I know. It's
all
okay.
right. So,
thanks, Sean.
Here's the medicine's working again. Give me the question again.
Okay. Let's see. Did the disciples ever know Jesus?
No. Wait a minute. But that's a different story.
It is. But okay, I was trying to sum it up. Okay.
Right. Exactly. So the disciples refer to the people in the Christian New Testament who actually knew and listened to Jesus. But Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Look, I can write a book. And I can attribute it. I can put, this book was written by William Hall. But that doesn't mean that William Hall actually wrote it.
Right.
Okay. If I want people to sit up and notice my book and read my book, especially 2,000 years ago, I am going to attribute the text to someone who has authority. There's a collection of works, it's called pseudepigrapha. Pseudo, like fake. Epigrapha, meaning written, to write, like graphology, study of the written, what's written, handwriting. Okay? Pseudo epigraph. Okay, so you have, what happened with Enoch? Okay, Hanoch. What happened with Enoch in the Bible? The biblical text doesn't say that Enoch died.
Right.
Okay, it says that Enoch walked with God. So he was bodily, according to tradition, taken up to heaven. So if I write a book and it's 2,000 years ago, and I want my book to be respected, and I want my book to be seen as an authority on whatever I'm going to write in it, I'm going to attribute that book, the authorship of that book, not to Stuart Federow, who knows who that guy is. I'm going to put as the author Enoch, because he would have the insights that I wouldn't have into the mystical sides of heaven. Well, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we don't know that a person named Matthew wrote Matthew. We do not know that a person named Mark wrote Mark. We do not know that a person named Luke wrote Luke. We do not know that a person named John wrote John. These are attributed to them because these were the names of some of the disciples, and so they would be the ones to know the most about Jesus and what happened to him. But if you take a look at the New Testament, it is so filled with contradictions. We just talked a little bit about the birth story. You cannot write a narrative of Jesus's birth stories based on Matthew and Luke and come up with a coherent text, a coherent narrative, because they contradict each other in so many ways. Jump forward to the crucifixion, okay? Because I pulled this one out of my head. Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the synoptic gospels, every one of those say that Simon not Simon, what's his name? Mental block. The guy who carried the cross, the Cyrenian.
Centurion. Oh yeah, hold on.
I can't think of his name.
That's okay.
But in the Gospel of John, it's very, very, very clear that John is saying that only Jesus carried Jesus's cross. I think it's Simon of Cyrene, but I can't remember. At any rate, the point is that you can't write a narration where in one narration it says that Jesus' cross was carried by Simon of Cyrene, and in another text, Jesus himself and only Jesus carried his cross. You can't write a narrative that has both facts because they contradict each other.
Okay.
So
I'm still listening.
So the point of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is, Christian scholars will tell you this, that the Gospel of Mark was the first one to have been written down, and that was about the year 60. Okay, 66.
Okay.
Because it says some things that reflect the rebellion of the Jews against Rome, which started in 66. They will say that Matthew, the next one, and then Luke after that, and then John after that, is every decade thereafter. So that Mark is in the late 60s, Matthew is in the late 70s, Luke is in the late 80s, and John is in the late 90s.
Okay.
So 30, 40, 50, 60 years after Jesus was dead and buried is when these various stories circulating around get compressed into one story and then written down as a narrative.
So to answer the question, were they disciples? The answer
No.
would have to be no. There's no way.
There's no way they could be disciples.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I mean, even Paul never met Jesus. He never met him once. I mean, other than the vision he
and when
had.
he tells the story of Jesus coming to him on the road to Damascus, there are plenty of other times in the writings of Paul where it would be a perfect time for him to discuss what happened to him on the way to Damascus, and he never mentions it.
Right.
So if it's really clear, this would be a great time to talk once again about your experience. You know, I know people who have weird experiences, and they love to talk about that experience every single chance they get.
Right, sure.
So if it really happened to Paul, why does he only mention it once and then never again, especially when he has an opportunity to use it in his proselytizing?
And the same logic goes with the virgin birth. If it really happened, that would be something pretty massive. If it was something provable, how come Paul never knew about a virgin birth and no one else was talking about it? It was just only in a few places you can find that.
And again, if every other famous god, that's a small g, god, had a famous birth story, then they invented it about Jesus, and sometimes even had to invent a verse and then show a story about that verse that didn't exist in order to try to show Jesus as the, having a miracle birth too.
That is so true. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fun evening. Rabbi, thank you so much for spending time with us. This song coming to you from Joe Buchanan out of Houston. Compliments of Rabbi Federow. He hooked me up with this free music from him. And so we're going to let the whole song play out. It's a beautiful song. Shalom Aleichem. What a perfect time to say it. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom Aleichem Malachei Hasharim Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Bochem LeShalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Mimelech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom Aleichem Shalom Aleichem Bachun LeShalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Seitchem LeShalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon Melech Malchei Hamlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Shalom